I'm going to open up to the audience. We've got about 9 minutes or so for questions. I've used up my questions, but now it's over to you to ask our audience, ask our panellists. We have microphones.
I just want to make a comment.
No, just because it's being recorded.
I just want to make a comment just on what you said, Tony, about governments and, you know, how can we understand this? They make money out of alcohol and they make money out of cigarettes.
And the pokies.
And the pokies. So we've got to really look at the agenda that behind these things, you know, and tackle the real problems.
So we should do what America does, tax marijuana now. They're making a fortune in Oregon and other places. Yeah. If you can't beat them, tax them. That's always been my philosophy. Yeah.
I don't have questions. I have two observations. I think on Portugal, and this is looking at the Victorian overdose data about 2 or 3 years ago, which is around maybe 100 less than what it was in 2017. You had a 43 times greater chance of fatally overdosing in Victoria than Portugal. So if you do want to take drugs, just go to Portugal because they're less harmful there. By way of, it's obviously facetious, by way of alcohol, I'd also have a look at the newspapers each day, and you'll see they're riddled with ads for big alcohol, and I guess it's hard to attack your advertisers in the mainstream media, and the same with the big sporting codes, big dollars, big alcohol. Thank you, and yeah, great comments from all.
I'll do to that. Okay.
Thanks everyone. Just wanted to hear comments from whoever wants to take it on the roadside drug testing program that we currently have in Victoria, which is about to be expanded. I think it's doubling in size, despite the fact that we still have problems over this issue of whether or not people are actually intoxicated and whether or not the people that are being removed from roads are actually a danger to other road users, or if it's sort of a bit of a witch hunt to find those who have used drugs in the past but are currently intoxicated, and if we're heading in the right direction or if we need to be doing something else.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Look, I agree. I think, you know, if you look at the fact that the people that are being tested now for methamphetamine and cannabis can be prosecuted even if they only have a minute trace in their system which will not be affecting their driving, you have to question the merit of, you know, imposing a penalty upon people like in those situations. It wasn't always like that. It was a case of the police having to prove that the person was driving under the influence of a drug, and that was changed. And so I think we need to look at the recommendations from the Parliamentary Inquiry into Illicit Drugs, which do recommend that the testing regime should be based on whether the person is under the influence and impaired their driving, rather than just, I guess, an approach which puts everyone in the same category, the same basket, and prosecutes people. I don't know if the evidence, certainly the evidence doesn't seem to be there, and police will acknowledge that they're not saying that illicit drugs are causing more accidents. What they're saying is that they have identified through their testing that drugs are present in accidents. So therefore, we can say, they are saying that that drug is causing that accident. But I don't think they couldn't acknowledge, or they wouldn't agree that that is the case, that there's a causation factor there. So I think that is an area which we need to look at very, very carefully, because I think a lot of people are being impacted by that particular piece of legislation. Yeah.
Could I make a comment?
Yeah, go on.
Just to add to what Greg said, with amphetamines and cannabis, it's not an impairment test, it's a detection test if it's in your system. What's striking about cannabis is that it can stay in your system because the cannabinoids, the active ingredients, are absorbed by the fat cells in the body, and it can take some time, sometimes days or weeks, for that to come out. So this scenario is entirely possible. You can fly out of Australia to Colorado, go skiing at Aspen, buy perfectly legal cannabis and get stoned there for your week's holiday, fly back to Australia, and then go into the long-term car park and pick your car up and be busted on the Tullamarine Freeway going back into town and test positive for cannabis, when you wouldn't have had any for maybe days. And that's a crime. So it does challenge our usual sense of what's just and what's not.
I just wanted to comment on a line of the Portuguese approach, giving purpose. I've been interested in the Indigenous problem with alcohol, and all the ones I've spoken to have said that generally in a situation where there's no purpose in life, they're no longer hunter-gatherers, they are getting the social payments, but without the purpose, the drugs are the escape, and I guess that's the general thing with drugs. I would say if I was in a position where I had no purpose in life, nothing to look forwards to, it's probably what I would look at as well. What would you agree with that? That's just general. Would you agree?
Yes. Totally.
I think the answer has to be yes, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I agree. Drug use is functional. You know, it serves a purpose, and you can look at any type of reason or purpose or function that drugs provide, whether it's alcohol, illicit drugs, prescription drugs. We have them for a reason, and in that situation, it doesn't surprise me that some Indigenous people, and we're talking about a relatively small number because there are lots of Indigenous people that don't drink at all. But in terms of their lives, that particular substance provides a function, provides a purpose. So, and that's what we, and because of the rest of the issues in that person's life are exacerbated by that consumption of alcohol.
The time for one.
Sorry, can I just add to that? I promise I'll be quick. And just picking up on your point, Greg, I think that applies to not only Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, but all people in society. And which is why my answer is resoundingly yes, of
Nobody
course.
wakes up in the morning wanting to have drugs to feel worse.
Indeed, exactly right.
One last question.
Just following on from that, I was thinking about it, I appreciate evidence-based research and whatnot, but some things that government require are only, they want a 12-month or 2-year research and evidence, whereas some things like community support, peer support models, for the outcome to actually come to life, it takes years to have a look at that. What's your views on the peer support? And
I think to comment on your first point, I think there is a significant dearth in our capacity to gather information. Oh, it's not a dearth, but anyway, there is a lack of evidence, long-term evidence. Our longitudinal studies are either non-existent or few and far between, and I would love to see something that to be addressed. I'd love that to be addressed. But there are all sorts of challenges in doing that, of course, trying to track people and also have them say yes to being involved in those studies as well. So the consent issue is quite significant. The second point that you make about peer support and peer mentoring, as I mentioned before, with the Family Drug Treatment Court, it was extraordinarily and continues to be an extraordinarily powerful mechanism for intervention and support for people who are trying to lift themselves out or get themselves away from their dependence or drug use. And so I would say that certainly from what I have seen and from the anecdotal evidence, although it is only anecdotal without any rigorous evaluation, I would suggest that it's extraordinarily powerful.
Well, on that note, can I thank you all for coming and for participating and having this engaging conversation with a very well qualified panel. Can you thank them on our behalf?
Thank you.